1 minute ago, Britain plunged headfirst into what is now being called the most dangerous constitutional crisis in over 3 centuries. Prime Minister Keir Starmer has taken an unprecedented step, one no Prime Minister in living memory has dared to attempt. He has openly declared war on King Charles III, directly challenging the monarchy in a way that threatens to upend centuries of tradition. What happens next could fundamentally reshape British politics, destabilize the Labour Party, and alter the monarchy forever. If you want to understand the real story behind this extraordinary confrontation, hit that subscribe button now, because the full context will completely change how you see Britain's political landscape. This explosive chain of events began just 3 days ago behind the closed doors of Windsor Castle, in a private study where King Charles did something no modern monarch has ever attempted. He held a full 2-hour, confidential strategy meeting with Nigel Farage and other key Reform UK leaders. This was no ceremonial handshake, no routine public photo opportunity. This was a substantive political discussion with the King personally engaging on matters of national concern. Buckingham Palace insiders have confirmed the meeting was personally arranged by the monarch, signaling just how seriously he took the matter. The trigger: a document, a freshly published Reform UK proposal that called for restoring Britain's democratic foundations and addressed what it described as unchecked parliamentary overreach and the steady erosion of the nation's traditional institutions. The report reportedly caught King Charles's attention, striking a nerve for a monarch long concerned with stability and the long-term health of the nation. During the meeting, Charles allegedly made a single, offhand comment that would ignite a political firestorm: perhaps it's time for fresh thinking in Westminster. The current path seems unsustainable. 12 words, just 12, and they have now sent shockwaves through the Prime Minister's office, threatening to topple Starmer, destabilize his party, and plunge Britain into its most serious constitutional crisis since Edward VIII abdicated in 1936. Royal protocol mandates absolute secrecy whenever political matters are discussed, yet within 48 hours, the story had exploded across the media. The Times broke the initial report, followed quickly by every major outlet: BBC, Sky, The Guardian, The Daily Mail, turning what should have been a closed-door discussion into a front-page sensation across the United Kingdom. The leak did not come from Reform UK, who had every reason to keep it quiet. Palace insiders suggest the breach may have originated within Downing Street itself, possibly orchestrated by Labour MPs furious enough to embarrass their leader by exposing a meeting between the King and his political rivals. If that was the intent, it backfired spectacularly. When Starmer learned the details, witnesses say he completely lost control. During an emergency cabinet meeting, he reportedly paced the room, slammed papers down, and erupted in rage. Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner later described him as a man possessed. The outburst that may well define Starmer's political legacy came next. He allegedly banged his fist on the cabinet table and shouted, "If Charles wants to play politics, I'll show him how the game is really played. The monarchy serves Parliament, not the other way around. He's forgotten his place." Colleagues were stunned, but he didn't stop there. Education Secretary Bridget Phillipson later reported that Starmer continued, 30 years of constitutional tradition. That's just old men in fancy clothes playing dress up. This is 2025, not 1725. If he wants a fight, he's got one. The unthinkable had occurred. No modern prime minister had ever spoken about the monarch with such direct contempt. The crown is sacrosanct in Britain's unwritten constitution, and crossing that line is political suicide. Within hours, the comments leaked to the press. Ministers whispered to journalists. Civil servants texted friends in the press gallery. By evening, the story was everywhere, dominating not just newspapers but social media platforms worldwide. TikTok, Twitter, and Facebook exploded. Within 6 hours, #DefendTheCrown was trending #1 globally. Pro-monarchy accounts erupted with fury, labeling Starmer as treasonous. Clips of his speeches were recirculated with captions like, "This is what happens when Republicans take power," while memes flooded feeds depicting him as Oliver Cromwell, under a guillotine, or ripping up the Union Jack. The backlash was not limited to Conservatives. Traditional Labour voters were horrified as well. Margaret Thompson, a 68-year-old retired teacher from Liverpool, went viral with a TikTok clip saying, "I supported Labour through Thatcher, I supported Labour through Blair, but attacking our king. That's not the Labour Party I know. That's not Britain." Her video reached over 2.3 million views in just 24 hours. Then came the polling data, which made the crisis official. A YouGov emergency poll conducted just 18 hours after the story broke revealed that 73% of Britons believed Starmer had gone too far. Labour's national approval rating plummeted from 42% to 28% almost overnight. In traditional Labour strongholds like Liverpool, Newcastle, and Manchester, support cratered even further, with 68% of voters expressing lost confidence in Starmer's leadership. Nearly half of former Labour voters said they were reconsidering their support. This was not a minor dip in popularity, it was catastrophic, the kind of collapse that ends governments and rewrites political history. And through it all, King Charles has remained silent. Constitutional experts hail this as the smartest move of his reign. Professor Sarah Matthews of Oxford University explained, the monarchy survives by staying above politics. By remaining silent, Charles leaves the Prime Minister twisting in the wind, making Starmer's outburst appear reckless while the Crown maintains dignity. Meanwhile, inside Labour headquarters, panic has reached unprecedented levels. Damage control WhatsApp groups swelled to more than 40 MPs as messages flew about whether to defend the leader, distance themselves, or plot succession. Veteran MP Diane Abbott reportedly told colleagues, "In 40 years in this party, I've never seen a leader self-destruct like this. He hasn't just damaged himself, he's damaged all of us." Names of potential successors, Angela Rayner, David Lammy, and even Ed Miliband, began circulating. Cabinet cracks are evident. Transport Secretary Louise Hay was reportedly seen leaving Downing Street in tears after a shouting match with the Prime Minister. Chancellor Rachel Reeves, Starmer's closest ally, conspicuously remained silent in public appearances. Observers interpreted Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner's calm private meetings with MPs as strategic positioning for a leadership takeover. Meanwhile, Nigel Farage and Reform UK are exploiting the chaos with surgical precision. Farage projects the image of the guardian of Britain's most sacred institution, defending the Crown against what appears to be Labour's assault on tradition. Membership has surged 400% in 3 days, with donations pouring in from small contributors, ordinary voters, and disillusioned former Labour supporters. Reform UK is transitioning from a fringe movement to a legitimate contender. The Conservatives, still recovering from internal strife and Brexit fallout, are suddenly in a position of relative strength. Opposition leader Kay Badenoch has played her hand carefully, criticising Starmer without gloating, framing Labour as a party that has shown disrespect for the monarchy and the country. Political strategists see a rare opportunity to present the Conservatives as the stable, patriotic alternative while Labour collapses and Reform UK rises. International attention is intense. In Canada, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau diplomatically acknowledged the crisis, implying that Starmer has lost control. In Australia, opposition leader Peter Dutton condemned the comments as disgraceful. Even American networks led with the story, incredulous that Britain, long seen as a symbol of political stability, has been reduced to the punchline of global media within 24 hours. Subsequent polling confirmed the severity of the collapse. Labour support fell from 42% to 28%, with nearly half of previous Labour voters reconsidering their allegiance. By the end of the week, Labour had fallen to 26%, Reform UK surged to 24%, and Conservatives held steady at 32%, leaving Farage on the cusp of replacing Labour as the official opposition. Within the Parliamentary Labour Party, despair has curdled into open rebellion. Backbench MPs held late-night calls whispering about no-confidence letters. Veteran figures privately admitted that Starmer was finished. Leaks confirmed that damage control groups had morphed into full-blown succession planning hubs. Cabinet ministers resigned, junior ministers followed, and silence from key figures like Chancellor Reeves spoke volumes. Deputy Prime Minister Rayner's discreet meetings indicated her preparation for leadership. Britain is now at a crossroads. Labour is in disarray, scrambling for survival. Conservatives stand steadier but face a resurgent Reform UK. The monarchy, once seen as vulnerable, now emerges more respected than ever. This is not simply a political scandal. This is a turning point, a historical moment rewriting the rules of engagement between the Prime Minister and the Crown. History is being made before our eyes, and the consequences will echo for decades. 1 minute ago, Britain entered a constitutional crisis of unimaginable proportions, the kind of political storm that experts say hasn't been seen in over 3 centuries. Prime Minister Keir Starmer has crossed a line that no modern leader has ever dared to cross. He has openly challenged King Charles III, declaring a political war against the monarchy itself. What unfolds in the next hours, days, and weeks could reshape the very foundations of British governance, destabilize the Labour Party in ways not seen since the 1930s, and forever alter the delicate balance between the Crown and Parliament. If you want the full story, The untold details, the behind-the-scenes drama, and the shocking implications. Make sure to subscribe right now, because the full truth is stranger, deeper, and far more consequential than the headlines suggest. The chain of events began just 3 days ago, behind the closed, fortified doors of Windsor Castle. In a private study, King Charles III did something that no modern monarch has ever attempted. He convened a 2-hour strategy session with Nigel Farage and other leaders from Reform UK. This was not a routine handshake, a fleeting wave to the press, or a ceremonial photo op designed for optics. No, this was a deliberate, substantive conversation, a confidential meeting where the king personally engaged in matters that could shape the future of Britain. Sources inside Buckingham Palace have confirmed that Charles personally arranged the meeting, underscoring how seriously he viewed the issues at hand. The spark that ignited this political wildfire was a freshly published Reform UK document outlining proposals to restore Britain's democratic foundations, highlighting what it described as unchecked parliamentary overreach and the erosion of long-standing institutions. According to insiders, this report caught King Charles's eye, striking a deep chord for a monarch who has long worried about the long-term stability of his nation and the enduring legacy of the crown. During the meeting, the king reportedly made a single offhand comment: "Perhaps it's time for fresh thinking in Westminster. The current path seems unsustainable." Just 12 words, seemingly innocent, but they have now detonated a political bomb that threatens to dismantle the Prime Minister's authority, fracture the Labour Party, and plunge Britain into a crisis rivaling the abdication of Edward VIII in 1936. Royal protocol demands absolute secrecy when political discussions occur. The crown is meant to remain above the fray, untouchable, impartial. Yet within 48 hours, the story had erupted across every major media outlet. The Times was first to break the news, but BBC, Sky, The Guardian, and the Daily Mail quickly followed, turning a confidential Windsor meeting into the headline story dominating newspapers, websites, and broadcasts nationwide. Palace insiders insist that the leak did not originate from Reform UK, who had every reason to remain discreet. Instead, whispers point to Downing Street itself, possibly orchestrated by disillusioned Labour MPs eager to embarrass their own leader by exposing a meeting between the monarch and his political rivals. If that was their strategy, it backfired in spectacular fashion. When Starmer learned of the details, he reportedly lost all control. Sources describe him pacing furiously during an emergency cabinet meeting, slamming papers to the floor, shouting in anger, his face red with fury. Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner later described him as appearing possessed, consumed by a mixture of shock, rage, and desperation. The defining moment came when Starmer allegedly slammed his fist onto the cabinet table and shouted, "If Charles wants to play politics, I'll show him how the game is really played. The monarchy serves Parliament, not the other way around. He's forgotten his place." Colleagues were stunned into silence, but he did not stop. Education Secretary Bridget Phillipson later recounted that he continued, 30 years of constitutional tradition. That's just old men in fancy clothes playing dress up. This is 2025, not 1725. If he wants a fight, he's got one. The unthinkable had occurred. No prime minister in living memory had ever spoken about the monarch with such direct contempt. The crown is sacrosanct in Britain's unwritten constitution. To challenge it in such terms is political suicide. Within hours, the comments leaked. Civil servants whispered to journalists. Ministers texted friends in the press. By evening, the story was everywhere, not just in newspapers but across social media platforms that spread it like wildfire. TikTok, Twitter, and Facebook exploded. Within 6 hours, #DefendTheCrown was trending #1 worldwide. Clips of Starmer's speeches were recirculated with captions reading, "This is what happens when Republicans take power," while memes flooded feeds portraying him as Oliver Cromwell, under a guillotine, or tearing apart the Union Jack. The backlash was not limited to Conservatives. Traditional Labour voters were equally horrified. Margaret Thompson, a 68-year-old retired teacher from Liverpool, went viral with a TikTok clip declaring, "I supported Labour through Thatcher, I supported Labour through Blair, but attacking our king. That's not the Labour Party I know. That's not Britain." Her video reached over 2.3 million views within just 24 hours. The polling data that followed confirmed the political catastrophe. A YouGov emergency poll taken just 18 hours after the leak revealed that 73% of Britons believed Starmer had overstepped. Labour's national approval rating plunged from 42% to 28% overnight. In traditional Labour strongholds, support collapsed even further. Liverpool, Newcastle, and Manchester saw confidence in Starmer's leadership fall by as much as 68%. Nearly half of former Labour voters admitted they were reconsidering their allegiance. This was not a temporary blip, this was a political earthquake, the kind that ends governments and reshapes history. Meanwhile, King Charles remained silent. Constitutional experts hailed his inaction as a masterstroke. Professor Sarah Matthews of Oxford University explained, the monarchy survives by staying above politics. By saying nothing, Charles allows the Prime Minister to twist in the wind, exposing Starmer's fury as reckless while the Crown maintains dignity, poise, and authority. Inside Labour HQ, panic has reached fever pitch. The WhatsApp group dubbed Damage Control swelled to over 40 MPs as members debated whether to defend the leader, distance themselves, or prepare for succession. Veteran MP Diane Abbott reportedly told colleagues, "In 40 years in this party, I've never seen a leader self-destruct like this. He hasn't just damaged himself, he's damaged all of us." Names of potential successors, Angela Rayner, David Lammy, even Ed Miliband, began circulating as the cracks in the cabinet widened. Transport Secretary Louise Hay was reportedly seen leaving Downing Street in tears following a furious shouting match with the Prime Minister. Chancellor Rachel Reeves, Starmer's closest ally, conspicuously remained silent, a signal that spoke louder than any statement could. Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner quietly held private meetings with MPs, ostensibly to calm nerves, but insiders immediately recognized the strategic positioning. Rayner was preparing herself to step in as the inevitable replacement. Outside the Labour Party, Nigel Farage and Reform UK seized the moment with surgical precision. Farage avoided gloating, insults, or inflammatory tweets. Instead, he positioned himself as the defender of Britain's most sacred institution, the monarchy itself. Standing outside Reform HQ, flanked by Union Jacks, he delivered a speech declaring, "While others attack our king, we defend him. While others tear down tradition, we stand for it. While others forget what it means to be British, we remember." The optics were perfect. Labour appeared reckless and disrespectful, Reform UK emerged as the guardian of national identity. Membership surged 400% in 3 days, donations poured in from small contributors, ordinary voters, and disillusioned former Labour supporters, and Farage's party suddenly transitioned from fringe insurgents to a legitimate force in national politics. The Conservatives, still recovering from years of internal strife and Brexit fallout, unexpectedly found themselves in a position of relative strength. Opposition leader Kay Badenoch navigated the crisis carefully, criticizing Starmer without gloating, framing Labour as a party that had shown profound disrespect for the monarchy and the British people. Conservative strategists could hardly believe their luck. Labour had just handed them the perfect narrative to present themselves as the stable, patriotic alternative, while Reform UK rose and Labour imploded. International attention quickly followed. In Canada, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau responded diplomatically, implying Starmer had lost control. In Australia, opposition leader Peter Dutton was blunt, calling the Prime Minister's remarks disgraceful and damaging to Britain's international reputation. Even American networks, usually indifferent to UK politics, led with the story for days, incredulous that a nation long associated with political stability had become the laughingstock of global media within 24 hours. Subsequent polling only reinforced the severity of the crisis. Labour support fell to 28%, nearly half of previous voters reconsidered their support, and Reform UK surged to 24%, while the Conservatives held at 32%, placing Farage on the brink of becoming the official opposition.